Most of what you have been told about why your dog does what they do is wrong. Not maliciously wrong, just out of date, built on assumptions humans were making about dogs. Long before anybody actually ran the experiments, in the last 20 years, dog cognition science has caught up. And what the labs have found is that almost every behavior in your living room can be explained by 6 underlying psychological principles. Once you know them, the dog at your feet stops being a mystery and starts being a coherent, intelligible animal making coherent, intelligible choices. And it isn't because your dog is simple. They are not. They are extraordinarily complex. It is because the complexity runs on a small number of rules. The same way human psychology, for all its richness, runs on a few underlying principles like memory, motivation, and attachment. Dog psychology has its own core principles, and most owners have never been told what they are. 6 of them, working together, explain almost every behavior you will see your dog perform between now and the end of the week. Once you can see the principles, the behaviors translate themselves. Stay for number 6, because that is the principle that underlies the other 5. It is the deepest fact about how a dog's mind actually works. And it explains, in one sentence, why your dog watches you the way they do. 1. Your dog is not a small human in a fur coat. The first principle is the one that, if you absorb it, will reshape every other reading of canine behavior you ever make. Your dog is not a small human. They do not share your moral framework, your concept of fairness, your sense of guilt, or your interior monologue. They are a different species with a different brain, optimized for different problems. Holly Molinaro and Clive Wynne at Arizona State University published a study in early 2025 titled, "Barking Up the Wrong Tree," demonstrating that humans systematically misread dog emotions by projecting human expectations onto canine bodies. They showed participants short videos of dogs reacting to either positive or negative stimuli. The participants performed only slightly better than chance, and most of the errors came from assuming the dog felt what the human in the scene felt, rather than what the dog's body was actually expressing. Anthropomorphism, the projection of human traits onto non-human animals, is the single most common source of behavior misreading in pet households. It produces the assumption that the dog who chewed the shoe feels guilty. The assumption that the dog who barks at the vacuum is being dramatic. The assumption that the dog who refuses to come is being stubborn. None of these readings line up with what the dog's nervous system is actually doing. The first principle of dog psychology is simple. Read the dog, not the story you would tell about yourself in their place. Once you stop translating from human, the actual signals get loud. The dog stops being a confusing roommate and starts being a different species with its own clear, readable grammar. 2. Behavior is built by reinforcement, whether you mean it or not. The second principle is the one behaviorists have known since B.F. Skinner first formalized it in the 1930s. Behavior that is rewarded becomes more frequent. Behavior that is not rewarded becomes less frequent. There is no exception. There is no dog in the world that is immune to this rule. What surprises most owners is how loose the definition of reward actually is. Food is a reward. Petting is a reward. Eye contact is a reward. A laugh is a reward. Even being scolded, if the alternative is being ignored, can function as a reward for some dogs. Anything that occurs immediately after a behavior that the dog values will reinforce that behavior the next time the situation arises. Behaviorists call the strongest pattern of all intermittent reinforcement. Behaviors that are rewarded sometimes unpredictably are far more resistant to extinction than behaviors that are rewarded every time. This is the same principle that keeps humans pulling levers at casinos. It is also the principle that turns one small lapse, one piece of food slipped under the table, one moment of laughing at the jumping puppy, into a behavior the dog will rehearse for years. Your dog's habits are not personality, they are reinforcement history made visible. The behavior you find frustrating is almost always a behavior that, somewhere along the line, paid off. The behavior you wish your dog would do more often is almost always a behavior that has been rewarded inconsistently or not at all. Dogs are not lazy or willful. They are running the math of their environment. Whatever pays, repeats. Whatever does not, fades. The fastest way to change a behavior is not to argue with the dog about it. It is to change what the behavior pays. 3. The world to them is mostly smell. The third principle is sensory. We forget it constantly because we are visual creatures and we assume everybody else is too. Dogs are not. The dog's mental world is built first and foremost out of scent. Alexandra Horowitz, the head of the Dog Cognition Lab at Barnard College in Columbia University, has spent her career documenting just how dominant the olfactory channel is in canine experience. The numbers are staggering. A dog has roughly 300 million scent receptors against your 6 million. The portion of the dog's brain dedicated to processing smell is 40 times larger by proportion than the equivalent region in your brain. Where you see a room, your dog smells a timeline of every body, food, animal, and chemical that has been in that room recently. This single fact explains an enormous amount of behavior: why your dog stops to sniff every tree on a walk, why they greet other dogs by sniffing the rear, which is the canine equivalent of reading a stranger's biography, why they sometimes appear distracted in a room that looks empty to you, because the room is not empty to them. It is full of layered, decaying, complex scent information that demands processing. If you want to know what your dog is thinking, look at what their nose is doing. The nose moves first, the body follows. Their internal model of the moment is being built, primarily out of what their nose is reporting, not what their eyes are seeing. Your dog lives in a world we cannot perceive. The behaviors that look strange to us are often perfectly logical inside the world they actually live in. The walk is not slower than you wish because the dog is being difficult. The walk is slower because the dog is reading a newspaper made of scent that you cannot see. 4. They imprinted on the world before they met you. The fourth principle is developmental. The dog you live with now was psychologically shaped in significant part before you ever met them. Their early weeks set the template for what they consider safe and what they consider novel for the rest of their life. John Paul Scott and John Fuller, in their foundational work Genetics and the Social Behavior of the Dog at the Jackson Laboratory in Maine in 1965, identified a narrow developmental window between roughly weeks 3 and 12 of a puppy's life. During that window, the puppy's brain is unusually open to imprinting new categories of safe stimuli. The kinds of people, animals, sounds, surfaces, and environments a puppy encounters during that period become the default category of safe for the adult dog. Modern research has refined the dates and added nuance, but the principle has held up. A dog who was not exposed to children during the socialization window will, as an adult, find children harder to categorize as safe. A dog who was raised exclusively indoors will, as an adult, find busy streets more demanding. A dog who lived through a fear period without enough careful exposure may carry that fear pattern for years. This is not a flaw to be trained out. It is a developmental fact to be respected. The principle of dog psychology here is that the early window matters, that some adult behaviors are downstream of it, and that the kindest thing an owner can do is meet the dog where their template already is, rather than where the owner wishes their template had landed. Your dog is not being difficult. They are running on the operating system that was installed during the first 3 months of their life. Some of that operating system can be updated with patient work. None of it can be deleted. 5. You are their secure base, not their boss. The fifth principle is relational. Almost everything your dog does in your presence is mediated by one specific psychological structure: the attachment relationship they have with you. Hungarian researcher József Topol and his colleagues at Eötvös, Lorand University in Budapest demonstrated in their landmark 1998 paper in the Journal of Comparative Psychology that companion dogs treat their owners exactly the way securely attached infants treat a primary caregiver. The owner functions as a secure base. The dog explores more boldly when the owner is in the room. The dog returns to the owner under stress. The dog's nervous system uses the owner as the anchor point of the moment. Follow-up research by Marta Gacci, also at Eötvös Lorand, published in PLOS 1 in 2013, showed that the mere physical presence of the owner measurably reduces the dog's heart rate during stressful situations, the owner is not a boss. The owner is a regulator. Your nervous system, when you are nearby, becomes part of the dog's nervous system. This single principle explains an enormous amount of behavior: why your dog follows you from room to room, why your dog cannot settle when you leave, why your dog finally relaxes the moment you sit down, why your dog's body language softens when you walk in. The attachment system is running underneath all of it. All the time, your dog is not subordinate to you, they are bonded to you. The two relationships look similar from the outside and are completely different on the inside. Understanding which one is actually happening changes everything about how you respond to them. Bossing a bonded animal produces stress. Bonding with a stressed animal produces healing. The choice is yours, and the dog feels the difference every time. And if this is changing how you see your dog right now, go ahead and subscribe. Every video on this channel is built around what the science actually says, not what we assume. 6. The master principle. A dog's brain is a prediction machine. Here is the one underneath all the others. And once you see it, every single behavior in your house starts to fall under the same explanatory umbrella. Modern neuroscience treats the brain, any brain, primarily as a prediction machine. The job of the nervous system is not to react to the present, but to anticipate the next moment and to use the gap between what was predicted and what actually happened as the engine of learning. This framework, called predictive processing, applies to humans, primates, rodents, and, importantly, dogs. Gregory Berns, the founder of the Dog Project at Emory University, has been running awake fMRI studies on trained dogs for over a decade. His work, published in journals like Social Cognitive and Affective Neuroscience and Scientific Reports, has shown that the dog's caudate nucleus, a deep brain region involved in reward and prediction, lights up reliably in response to cues that predict good things to come. The cue lights up the caudate. The reward in many cases just confirms what the brain already predicted. Even more remarkably, Berns's 2016 paper, Awake Canine fMRI, predicts dogs' preference for praise versus food. Showed that in 13 out of 15 dogs tested, praise activated the reward circuit at least as strongly as food. The dog's brain values the predictability of social reward, the warm voice, the eye contact, the familiar hand on the head, as much as or more than calories. Read that carefully. Your dog is not, fundamentally, a creature responding to immediate stimuli. They are a creature running constant predictions about you. What you will do next, what kind of mood you are in, what this room is about to mean. Every behavior they perform is in service of one underlying question: what is going to happen, and is it going to be good or bad? Which means the master principle of dog psychology is this: be predictable, reward generously and consistently. Show up the same way at the door, speak in tones the dog can model. Do what you said you would do. The dog who can predict you is the dog whose nervous system can rest, and the dog whose nervous system can rest is the happiest, healthiest, most well-adjusted dog you will ever live with. All 5 of the previous principles: the anti-anthropomorphism, the reinforcement history, the scent primary world, the early socialization, the secure base attachment, feed into this one master principle. The dog is trying to predict you. The clearer the signal you give them, the better they can do it. The better they can do it, the more peaceful the body you live with becomes. Your dog is not waiting for love. They are waiting for the next pattern and praying it lines up. When it does, the relationship you have with them is one of the deepest cross-species partnerships our planet has ever produced, and the most beautiful thing about it is that the dog does not need anything more from you than predictability and presence to keep their half of it going. If this changed how you see why your dog does what they do, leave a comment telling us which of the 6 principles explained the most about your own dog's behavior. We read every one, and we use them to shape the next videos on this channel. If you want more of the real behavioral science behind the small things your dog has been quietly doing for you for years, subscribe. Every video on this channel begins the same way, with a question most dog owners have never stopped to ask, and then we go looking for the real answer. Not the simplified version, not the comfortable assumption, the actual science, the kind that earns its Place by holding up across labs and across years. The dog at your feet right now is not a mystery. They are a coherent psychological system. Read them on their own terms. Be predictable. Reward what you want to see again. Respect the world they actually live in. And trust that the bond running between the two of you is one of the most carefully studied and beautifully understood relationships in the entire animal kingdom. The science is finally on the dog's side. And after 40,000 years of patience, they deserve nothing less. The work has been done. The principles are clear. The dog at your feet is finally being understood the way they have been quietly understanding you for years.